Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. I'm looking at some of the stuff that's on here. I like these questions at the beginning, actually, quite a bit. I like the pre-stream warm-up question. And I'm looking at both Raven's Path and Cowboy Bigfoot's answers to it. Echo and audio. Uh-oh.
Hopefully that fixed it. Let me know if that fixed it. I do believe it should have, and I have a reason for why that happened. But okay, so let me go this, and I'll tell you why there was an echo. So, number one, you don't have to get the Harrow card or the Harrow deck. There is a kind of a way to go about it. Yes, there is it's using a deck of playing cards and just assigning values to it. So you don't necessarily need to buy it. I ain't gonna lie. It's super cool. We'll kind of go over it a little bit. But you actually don't need to buy everything. As far as the artist thing, let me read Cowboy Bigfoot's answer. I get the whole paint artist. Oh, no, you can't stop the AI thing. I 100% get the AI art argument. And I 100% feel for the artists. I will say this, on this particular channel, I'm not going to, and I'm not going to use ChatGPT for scripts. But when I was playing before I got the channel, or even, yeah, I guess before I played the channel, because I'm not playing any games I didn't start before I started this channel. So would I go on to Google image search and try to find an image of a halfling cleric? Sure. So it's a touchy subject, and I get that. If you are making money off of what you're doing, then no, you shouldn't. My thought, and this is just my opinion, my thought is you shouldn't use AI art, nor should you strip something for someone else. Yeah, of course. In truth, using Hero Forge or those type of things, technically, is that right? Like, I'm paying for the subscription, so I feel I can use it in my tokens. Actually, a really good, something that I do use now that I think about it. So I use Canva for my thumbnails. Now, a lot of the art that comes from, and the slides and the basic backgrounds, and if you look at my thumbnails versus some of the other people's thumbnails, a lot of people use the same ones, because in truth, there aren't that many great ones out there. But you are using art that was sourced, and the artists were probably paid, pennies in order for this particular art, and it's being used by everywhere. So yeah, personal only use, of course. I actually don't see a problem with it at all for personal use. It's just if you're making money off of it. But I will say, and this is where I'll get to, so the first thing I'll say is, as far as why I know it's not feasible for most people, not even some people, not even, the minority or whatever, the majority of the people, it's not feasible. This little logo you see in the lower right-hand corner, it was a big deal for me to get that out. That cost me over $270 to get designed. The audio track you heard on the build-up, I paid like $170 to get that done, and that took 2 weeks for someone to do it for me, simply because I'm not making money off this channel at all. I'm not big enough to do that. And even at a certain point, if I wanted to make money off tabletop role-playing games, by that I mean to substitute my full-time job with doing YouTube or something like that, Pathfinder's probably not the game, because you need way more viewers than I think that you could possibly get doing Pathfinder. Even some of the biggest streamers, I don't know how much they make, but I don't think it could be that much. But art costs money, and it should, because it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. And, I was during even the logo design is, you get drafts and you make changes and you make requests and you say, could I do this? Could I do that? And so it does take a lot of time, but I'm using this for streaming, which is technically a commercial license. So, or even YouTube, which is a commercial license in my head at the very least. So I wanted to make sure it was legitimate. But if you're doing it for your personal table, of course not. No, I think that's perfectly fine to use it at your table. That's my thought anyways. I might get lambasted for it. And if I do, it's a legitimate critique because I see the argument from an actual artist who may be the art that you were using, and maybe they showed up at your table somehow at your house. I don't know. The echo thing, by the way, so like 12 minutes before this stream started, my big monitor went out, and then I opened up OBS, and I was like, oh crap. So I opened up OBS and the camera wasn't, so I had to do a whole bunch of stuff. I had to reload a few things in the 5 minutes before this stream started. So the reason why there was an echo at the beginning was because I had to reset everything. So hopefully that helped. I don't know. I just kind of rambled there for about 10 minutes. But, first thing I want to cover, actually, let's go back to a little bit from the live from last week. So there were 2 questions, and I'm not sure where to put these. I guess I could put it on the list from... Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I want it to be legitimate. I don't want to, I personally don't want to take money from the mouths of people. Like the first logo I had, if you look at some of my older videos, and they aren't that old. If you look from my videos from March, April, you'll see a totally different logo. I made that in the Fiverr logo maker. And I figured once I got basically above 100 subscribers, I figured, well, I should probably be a little bit more legitimate and pay more than $15 for a logo. So you paid for someone to do it. But one of the things I want to cover is I use Google Keep or the Notes app for notes. And 2 things I wanted to say is we did cover Hero Labs Online and Path Builder. Yes, you can do exports from both. Yes, you can sort of import. You can't. It's easier to import into Hero Labs Online than it is in Path Builder. However, here's what I do want to say. The formatting's totally different. You could create a conversion program in order to convert an export from Hero Labs Online into Path Builder if you wanted to, because it is just a JSON file. But in the effort it would take you to write that script, it's probably easier just to recreate the character, since both of them are pretty easy. And the other one was campaigns and campaign modes. I wasn't able to figure out how to export those at all. No, yeah, the one the other big thing that you'll see, this is back to the AI thing. So Haza, especially if you're on the TTRPG Twitter or Blue Sky, there's a big community there. And I do a lot of, or I'm trying to do more and more independent creator videos, independent creator previews and reviews. So I have 4 of them so far. And when you start getting in somehow with those circles, it is a very, you see a little different perspective when you're actually talking to the artists. And when the Wizards of the Coast, they released that new book that had AI art. Oh, that was an apocalypse on Twitter and Blue Sky. And it should be, because why would Hasbro, a multi-billion-dollar company, need to use AI art in their books? And it doesn't reflect well on Hasbro. It doesn't reflect well on Wizards of the Coast. Doesn't reflect well on Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm very glad that Paizo came out and said that they will not be using AI art in any of their things, nor do they want it in any of their narratives. So no ChatGPT or Bard or any of the other ones. I forget what the Microsoft one is called, but Google is Bard. And so I do appreciate that particular thing. Correct. And plus, at the moment, I'm not saying that some AI art can't look cool, because it can. But generally speaking, AI art always, to me, a lot of times, hands are always mangled, but the color schemes, it always has that Marvel movie poster, teal and orange in the background kind of thing that makes it look like an action. I don't know if that's just because of the images they scraped, but a lot of especially when you see fantasy art dealing with what can I think of what it's called all of a sudden? Because I had it in my head, DALL-E or some of the other AI art programs, they always seem like some kind of action movie poster. And, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, Ravenspath. I didn't know you had gone back that far. Yeah, I only started on March 5th. Your John Cena is perfect. Now, if you want to get John, first of all, your John Cena can only be perfect if it's a blank white page, because you can't see John Cena. So I hate to give that to you, but you can't see John Cena. So I'm sure your John Cena is perfect. I need to get a Discord or something like that, and you could put it up in the Discord. Maybe I'll work on putting one of those together this week. There aren't enough people. It'd be a pretty lonely Discord, but I could do it. Like I said, for personal use, I do, especially at a table, or even if you're doing a virtual tabletop with your friends. Yes. If you were doing Start Playing, which I actually do have, one of the campaigns I play is through Start Playing, and it's a professional GM, then probably not, because you're making money off it. I really need to get a Discord. Doing a Discord, I want to say it's easy. It's free, I'll say that, and it's not hard. But yeah, I could try to put one together. Sure, I could try. Let's see, what else do I have before we go ahead and get started talking about the Harrow Deck thing? Because the Harrow Deck thing is pretty cool, and I'm going to be doing another live on Saturday. I had some questions from, a few lives back where there were some European people who wanted to one of them actually stayed up till like their 3 a.m. to watch the live, which I thought was humbling a little bit and fantastic. But I'm going to do another live, I believe it's Saturday at 11 or 11:30, but it's already on the thing, and we're going to be doing... I'm going to spend a little bit of time tomorrow and Saturday morning actually learning how to do this. Like when you were a teenager and you go to Hot Topic and get the tarot cards and try to learn how to read tarot cards. I'm going to try to learn how to actually do a Harrow deck. I listen to podcasts. Yes, I listen to, so I don't miss anybody. So for Pathfinder 2nd edition, Tabletop Gold, fantastic. They are very good. They are a good balance of, they're basically a group of friends. They're not actors. They're not necessarily professionals, although they come across fairly professional, but they don't shy away from the rules. It's not a performance for them. They're actually playing. And when they get to a new concept, even 100 episodes in, they will stop and explain the rules. I love Tabletop Gold. Bestow Curse from Hideous Laughter. There is another podcast, not Pathfinder specific. They generally do a lot of war games, the AARPGs, which I think is kind of a funny name. Another one, which I haven't started yet, is Dice Will Roll. They're supposed to be pretty good, but I haven't started them yet. I'm almost caught up on my Tabletop Gold. And when that is, Dice Will Roll will probably be the next podcast I do. It's the one I do if I have to go to the grocery store and I'm walking down the aisles, I'll put a podcast on. Or when I'm driving in my car to work, I'll put a podcast on. So, but my number one is definitely Tabletop Gold. Ooh, Find the Path. I have heard a lot about Find the Path, Hell's Rebels. You can see it a lot in Reddit, and I see it a lot on Twitter and Blue Sky too. Let me bring it up in my little thing. Find the Path. Okay, I'm not going to make you guys sit there and watch me, but I do have the search thing set up. I'm going to put that. I have heard Hell's Rebels is supposed to be really, really good. What AP is that? Or is it a custom one? Just out of curiosity. But we're going to go to Harrow Deck. If you are going to do one or the other, I would say this. I got this because of subscription. So I was going to get it anyways. This, I believe, let me switch over real quick here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because we are going to go to, that's the tabletop version of it. This, I believe, is $40. It's not cheap. Wrong one. So the Harrow Deck on the module for Foundry, which is a great module, and that's what we're kind of going to go over a little bit today, is $15. It works kind of flawlessly. It's pretty darn good. The Harrow Deck is $40. So if you had to choose between getting the Harrow Deck on Foundry or getting the physical one, and you play most of your stuff on Foundry, I would suggest getting it on Foundry. This is kind of cool. You know, it has a little cardboard thing. little sneak peek. The video tomorrow is this. Oh, give me a sec. I'll go back to this screen. That would be this one. Stolen Fate. It got released with, and I'm actually not allowed to read these because my GM wants to play this next once we get done with Gatewalkers. So I'm actually not allowed to read these even though I have them. But that's the AP that kind of uses the Harrow Deck. You do not need the Harrow Deck to play Stolen Fate, though. The Harrow Deck is optional. Back to this, though, and this is a sneak peek in tomorrow's. A review of this is tomorrow, of the physical one. And then I go into the Foundry one as well in that video. But you get the nice little cardboard box that has magnets in it. Kind of keeps it nice and snappy. And then you get an instruction book. And then you get this cool little ribbon. And the cards come out. They are, let's go ahead. There are some fantastic drawings in here of various things. You can kind of see it as it's not gold foil, it's a metallic paint, but the cards do have a little kind of like iridescence to them. They're very nice. The only thing, and I don't think I really highlighted this in the video, is because it's not a bad thing, but these have about the same card weight as a playing card, but they're bigger than a playing card. So I don't want to say they're more delicate, but you have a better chance of bending them because with the, 1 1/3 size difference between this and a playing card, the thickness of them is about the same. So I wouldn't shuffle them quite as hard as you might a regular deck of cards. Plus, it's a $40 deck of cards. But with that, I do love them. And like I said, Saturday during the live, we're going to actually do a real reading, although we might play around with it a little bit today. We'll kind of see. Sorry, I was catching up on Raven's Path, the last thing, and Haza Spades. So I need to get that closer to the screen so I don't have to look down so much. So we will talk about that a little bit. So the official deck is $40. You can get a download, although why, unless you wanted to print them off. They also have the Foundry version, which is $15, 100% worth it. I will kind of go ahead and go over that a little bit. And you can get, basically you go here and I'm not going to pull up my thing because then you guys could get my other keys. But you can click on this and you can enter your code basically when you click on your name, and it's, that little 12 or 16 digit code, just like 3 or 4 octets. Just take my money. Basically, you don't have to buy all these things Raven Fast. I swear you don't. And when you're entered in and you come back over to your Foundry Virtual Tabletop, it gives you this cool little backdrop. There is some music that can be played if you would like it to be. You know what? I'll go ahead and turn the music up a little bit. I turned it down earlier. And you can basically start your reading. Then if you've ever actually been working in Foundry at all and you're trying to see, you're going through all your tabs and you see card stacks, you're like, I don't know what to do with the card stacks. This is finally a module that uses card stacks. So I'm assuming maybe that was intended in Foundry VTT for maybe some type of card games. But you basically start out and you can click on new reading and it'll bring up, this is actually because I had a reading already going. So let me close this out, right click, I'll delete this. Yes. And then you can right click on the Harrow Deck and you can click new reading. So when you click new reading, it'll basically bring this up. 2 things to do kind of to start out with, just being honest, is if you click on this button, it's going to bring up kind of like a Harrow Deck instruction manual type thing. And if you click on this one, it's going to bring up every single card. So if you wanted to see what the cards were, then you can kind of go through here, or I'll show you this in a second. We'll do Ira, no Anseal. Oh, I actually have something else to say about the art thing in a little bit. So, before I go on and I forget, because I'm not going to remember. So for Sly, our little kineticist, I am commissioning art for Sly kind of as we speak. There's about 3 different people I'm talking to see when I could get one done. And that's going to cost a bit too. But we'll talk about that when actually I get it started. Maybe by next week, hopefully I'll get it started. So you can basically name it whatever you want. So we're going to go ahead and pick a participant. And what it'll do is if you go through your actors section, let's close this out. I have a gazillion of them because I have a bunch of different monsters for me kind of playing and running some things. Right now I'm working on another playthrough dealing with the kineticist so we can kind of see how the kineticist works in action. But anything you have open in here is going to be in this drop down, and you can select basically any character you want. But you have to select a character. So it has to be a player, and then you add that participant because this will not come up until you do that. Now, what you can do is you have to do this actually, but there's 2 ways to go about it. There are 2 kind of stages to doing a reading. Once again, I don't have this totally down yet, but I'm working on it. There is the choosing and then the cards. The choosing, basically the person has to decide a single question to ask. And based on the question they're asking, you would determine what suit you'd like to use. If it applies to many things, then it would be any. If it would be something a fighter would deal with, something to do with strength, it would be hammers. If it was something to do with constitution or illness or sickness, it would be shields. If it had to do with intelligence, it would be books, and so on and so forth. But that would be why you would select a specific suit, is depending on the question. Each one of the suits relates to a certain attribute. We will go ahead and just leave it as any though right now. And then when you select it, there are 2 kind of ways to do this. If you are a GM and you're setting up a reading for your players and you want your players to get a very specific thing out of it, the way you can do that is you can drag cards and kind of make their reading a standard one. Then when you close it out, because I already had the bear, that's why. Just pick some cards. Then when you close it out, if I were to close this, and then I go back to the card stacks, I have Anseal's reading, you could bring it up. No problem, Cowboy. We will keep this going, and this will probably go for about an hour and a half or so, though. So if you would like to come back, totally cool. If not, sure, this will be in the replay, and I'll kind of try and timestamp it a little bit better too. But you can go ahead and, so you can make your cards whatever you want, including even giving this first one, which is the subject card. You can force it on a person if that's what you would like. However, if you want to do a true Harrow and just let the players pick whatever they want, then you would go back and you'd choose a suit and you would just hit any, or you would choose an attribute, whichever one you'd like, or whichever suit went to the attribute for the choosing question. And then you would just go ahead and hit begin reading. The first thing the player would do when you present this to your players is you would choose their subject card. So they could click any one of these 9 cards, and that becomes their subject card. What that does is that kind of gives them the card that represents them in this current situation related specifically to the question they're asking. And then you can go ahead and click on the card and a little button below it that said interpret card, and it'll give you the interpretation, where it should line up. Lawful evil, dominance mind control. Misalign, this card means that control can be cast off in the face of new information. And then after you're done with the interpret card part of it, then you could get to the spread. 2 ways. So you go ahead and click the next button. If you notice, the subject card remains the same. If we were to click this again, it's not going to be the same card. It's going to be different. The reason why let's see, can I flip it back? No. So that normally wouldn't be flipped like that. The way you're supposed to read this, and I'm going to reset it just for a second because, so we can see this particular deck right here. There's 3 columns, 3 rows. This is going to be, as far as columns go, it's all going to be past, all going to be present, all going to be future, and then rows, positive, unclear, negative. So it's almost like an alignment grid in truth. When we go back to where we were, we'd have the player choose their subject card. In this case, it's going to be the Tyrant. And then you hit the button again. 2 ways that you can do this is you can let the player pick each card, or you can do it for them. But when you're picking them one at a time, you always read it in the columns from left to right, top to bottom. And that's how you would reveal it to the players. And then this is where it starts getting dicey, because I get the mechanics of it. But from what I read in this book, and this book is also available once you do the Foundry, that is basically this here, is you're really paying attention to the ones that have the partial matches, the true matches, and the misaligned. Now, here's what this means. So this is positive future, and this card is chaotic good for wisdom. But if you were to look at the alignment, if you were to kind of match this up with the alignment, which is going to be weird when they do the remaster, this would be the chaotic good position, and that's a chaotic good card. I don't know how they're going to fix that in the remaster. I guess we'll see. I'm sure they're going to just come up with different verbiage, and it'll be updated in the Foundry. It's not particularly on the cards themselves, but that's how you determine whether something is a true match or misaligned. This would be negative present, and when we do an interpret card, this is lawful good, which means that this card should technically be up here if it was a true match. But if you have a card that does not have one of those symbols, the way I'm reading it right now, it's a card that you don't really interpret. I do want to, before we say that that's canon, because I don't think it's canon, or I'm not sure whether it's canon, that's my interpretation at the moment. And then you would go ahead and interpret the cards to the players. So if you want to do a truly random one like we just did, then you could do a live interpretation and let it go at that. However, if you wanted to tell a story, you could do what we did before, which is bring up your cards and preload the deck for them. And that way you could kind of get a little script going for yourself when you're reading it to your players, including the subject card. You could give the subject card to the player. And that way, when you reveal it to the players, their reading is going to be something that you already had planned out and might give them clues to the future. I can see this working, and it's not just going to work in Stolen the Fate. It's going to work in many other places. Anywhere we're living and we're fighting and we're adventuring in a fantasy world. So there's just so many different places that you could do this. Let me do one thing here real quick. So we were talking about the whole just take my money type thing and all that. You don't have to. Pathfinder Wiki. And there's a reason why I'm saying you don't have to do that. So there is, if you go to and I actually didn't find this on Archives of Nethys. I found it on Pathfinder Wiki. So you can get a lot of the information about the Harrow Deck on Pathfinder Wiki. And you can also do a full list of the cards, including a general interpretation of what's on all the cards. You can tell where it's supposed to be aligned. You can read it. There is a little bit more information in the Foundry thing itself. However, this is pretty much what's going to be in this particular manual. And there's 54 cards. A standard deck of cards is 52 cards with 2 jokers. You could do this with a standard deck of cards. Too late. Very true. It's a great NPC, and there's you can lead your players. You can start any adventure or start another leg of an adventure by going to a fortune teller NPC, and you could spend a whole session. And people love this. I remember as a teen 20-year-old, you go to a fortune teller. I don't believe in the tarot cards, but I love going and giving somebody $10 to go give me a reading. I thought that was fantastic. So it's a lot of fun. It's a good way to do something different. But back to not spending money, even though Raven's Path already seemed to, is make sure. You can do the same thing with this simply by using these cards here, and use a deck of playing cards. A deck of playing cards has 52 plus 2 jokers. This has 54 cards. There are only 4 suits. And there's 6 suits on the Harrow deck, and I get that, but you can assign a certain number of cards to each one and just kind of write it down on a piece of paper. Or since you can do the PDF of this, you can print these cards off, and you could just tape them to the front of a playing card. But you don't have to spend the money. I already did, but twice. I bought the... there's a certain point, if you are a YouTube person or a streamer, once you get a certain number of subscribers, you can submit a form and you'll start getting stuff for free. I'm not at that part yet, so I still have to pay for all these things. But yeah, I spent $55 on this, on these 2 things. So it does get pricey, and I get that. But you don't have to spend the money if you don't want to. There are other ways to do it, just with a regular deck of cards. But I can see this just being good in any situation, including Starfinder, when Starfinder remaster comes out. And I am going to start doing some of those once we start getting more field tests and see what we can integrate in. So if you're hearing digging, my dog is back here digging into her little bed. So sorry if you hear that. But it's just a really good, it's a really good NPC. Just like a few people have already said, Daniel's already said, there's so much you can do. There's so much you can add to it. And plus you can use the cards. I do remember hearing in, I believe it might have been, no, it wasn't table, Bestow Curse, Hideous Laughter. They basically gave each one of their players a card, and the card basically granted them, so at the start of their adventure, they went to a fortune teller. The fortune teller read their fortunes, and whatever their subject card was, the fortune teller gave them that card and what the GM did. And I need to look in the rules to see if this is an actual thing or whether they made it up. But they basically let the subject card be almost like a hero card. Not a hero point, but a hero card for the players at any point in the adventure. And there were, some that, 10, 20, 30 episodes in that still had their Harrow card that they could use as a hero card at any particular point. The hero card did something very specific. It wasn't just to reroll a die, but it gave them another shot in a certain situation. Once again, if it was going up here, we'll do a reset. If they needed to do something with strength, then they needed to have a hammer's subject card. If they needed something with intelligence, they needed a book subject card. It was a really good interpretation, really, really clever. That's what it is. It was Bestow Curse, the Hideous Laughter guys. And that's another really good podcast. Now for live plays or actual plays on YouTube, I did Critical Role way back. They're okay. They're too, I hate to say it, they're a little bit too professional, where it's not realistic. For me, anyways, plus they're playing D&D and now they're playing their own system. Does anybody have any recommendations for actual plays? And I will say this, the one thing I like about Tabletop Gold and a few of the other ones, including Hideous Laughter, is their podcasts are an hour each. If I look at actual plays and the actual plays are 4 hours long, it is very unlikely I'm going to watch YouTube for 4 hours in a sitting, even though I do work on YouTube. Sitting for 4 hours is a lot. And I fully understand that. But if you have any actual play recommendations for Pathfinder, I'd be more than happy to hear them. Let's see, what else can I talk about here? Because that's all I had for the Harrow decks. They're a great little system. If you are going to do Stolen Faith, it's something to consider. Oh, I actually do have something else we can talk about in Foundry as well. But let's go ahead and kind of not close this up, but at least come to a point where I've said everything. Stolen Faith's optional. And plus, by the way, I'm also not a shill for Paizo. I wish I was making money off this stuff. I'm not. I'm not telling anybody to buy any of this stuff. But if you get a chance to play it, play it. Knights of Everflame. Long's okay, especially if I can download the video and just listen to the audio when I'm grocery shopping and doing that kind of stuff. So as long as it's listenable and not too visual, that's fine too. How to install the Paizo code. Maybe. And the only reason I'm saying maybe is to make sure that I'm not giving everything away. Not that one. Give me a second. Let me do this. The reason why, if I bring up, because I can tell you how to do it in, well, okay, let me, sorry, I blocked off my screen here, my chat screen. Install it in the Paizo code. Are you talking, okay. No, it's possible. I just have to do it in a certain way. And by that, I mean screen captures as opposed to actually doing it. So I don't give up my codes. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this part. So you'll go to the first thing you're going to do is you're going to purchase your content. And when you purchase your content, where'd it go? You're going to go to your Foundry page, which is foundryvtt.com/community. Give me a second. I'm doing a lot of I'm trying to figure out how to do this without giving up all my codes, which would not be fun. Let's do, and we will get there. Okay. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the foundryvtt.com and you're going to click on this. It's going to get to your user thing. This doesn't give you anything specifically, anything. Then you're going to go to purchase content. This is where I have to start using screenshots as opposed to bringing other stuff up. So let me bring this back down. And then what you're going to do is when you click on this, you click on your profile and you're going to get to that little link that says purchase content. You click on the purchase content button and then you're going to get to this particular location. You will then hit, Control V, because I'm sure you probably copied and pasted, or, paste into this particular box and then hit activate content. Good. I'm so glad you found it. Yeah, it took forever for me to find it. And in truth, I Googled it first. But yeah, that's because I never remember this because I don't do it enough. I basically have the beginner's box. I have this and I have a couple APs. So like about 4 things that I've purchased. Oh, and the bestiary tokens. Now, when you get into here, what you will do is you will then go into manage modules. First of all, you will have to, I take that back. If you are using the Forge, you have to install it. So once you, let's see what that will show. Let's see if I can give up all my personal information. So don't think I'm giving anything up by doing this. Make sure you go to your bazaar, go to modules, and you have to install it. Because you're going to come on here and you're going to try and go to over here and you're going to be like manage modules and you're going to be like, it's not there. Where is it? It's because you need to still install it. You have to install it and it is a module. So make sure you install the module off of the Forge and you want to, let's see. Once again, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not killing myself here. Yeah, that should be fine. I don't think I'm showing anything. I have 2 updates. You would basically go to your Forge VTT, and you have to install this. You have to install that. It's not going to tell you to download it. It's not going to be like an update or anything like that. You have to install it. And then when you get into your Foundry itself, after you install it, then you can come into the Manage Modules, and it's under Pathfinder Harrow, and then you would install it. Once you do that, then it's going to be both in your compendium under Harrow Deck right here, and you can also go to the card stacks, and your Harrow decks will be there. Now, I hope that helped. Fantastic. It is pretty easy to work with. I enjoy it. And I will say this, and here's the other thing I wanted to get out of the way is, not get out of the way like it's a big deal. One other thing I did want to state is I did finally have to update to Foundry 11. And here's why. You cannot do kineticists in Foundry with basically Foundry 10, because the Pathfinder 4 point whatever does not have kineticist. That wasn't introduced till 5.02, I believe. So you have to have Foundry 11 to do kineticist. And since I want to start doing some actual or real play videos with kineticist to kind of show what their turns look like, what their 3 actions would be, a couple rounds with a kineticist, I had to upgrade to 11. There is a few things that I have noticed when I did that. And we will go to Manage Modules, and we can show you. So any one of these that's yellow basically means that it's not cleared for Foundry 11. It doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means that it's not cleared. One of the ones that does not work, and the big one that does not work, Token Action HUD Classic. That little line of tokens that works right here, well, that doesn't work in Foundry 11. So I need to find something else. The one that we did find that that I liked and everybody else liked, which was the interactive tooltip. If you are, can I just drag something on here? Good. So if you have that and you can click on it, no, I haven't. Oh, I have to be in a map. Okay, let me get a map up. We'll do Classic River Crossing. This is one of the first ones I've done. And we will drag a player onto it. Ira level 10. And then this is the token tooltip. And it does the same thing that the Classic Action HUD did. The Classic Action HUD does not work with Foundry 11. This, for most situations, this is going to work. Yeah, I love interactive tooltips, but when you're trying to make videos and you have this and you're fighting an adult black dragon, sorry, Ira. Actually, he's level 10 in that one. So the problem is when you are trying to do a fight and you have your characters here and I'm trying to describe what people are doing. If I roll over the adult black dragon, then Crag's going to be blocked. If I go over Ira, then it blocks everything. So I have to find something to do. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that I could anchor the tooltip somewhere else on the screen, but I haven't figured that out. Yes, and I 100% agree with you, Raven's Path. I love the tooltips. When I'm playing, I use tooltips. But when I'm trying to do a video, I kind of need that thing across the top so it stays out of the way. There is one of my GMs for Abomination Vaults has a different HUD along the bottom, and it is totally different because it's not movable. So I need to figure out what he's using and see if that will work. You can set a hover delay, but I still need, the delay would work, but there are going to be times when I need to get here. And I have kind of played around with drop macros, perception, You can go into here, manage modules. I don't want to do this live and bore you guys with some of this stuff, but where is it? Tooltip. I always forget what it starts with. Interactive tooltip. No, we'll leave that. Nope, let me not do that. Then we will do configure control, configure settings. Tooltip position right, left bottom, small tooltip delay, scale by font, use hold. Auto lock, tooltip on observe. I need to play around with these settings and try and figure out, not boring, I'm glad. That's a good idea about the hover delay. That could be something because I might be able to sit there. The problem, and truthfully for videos, the problem I run into, I could say, okay, we're going to show how his 3-action heal would work against undead and do positive energy against a negative creature, therefore it's going to be damaged. But while I'm talking, it'll do that. Disable active digital pips, force higher speed, distance to token. Sidebar, shoulder. There's more options in here than I thought there was. Ooh, I just changed something I didn't mean to change. So I have options to look at. Because yeah, that's the only thing is right now I'm using Foundry 11. Kineticist works great. But there are some things. Dice So Nice still works. Let's go back to that other thing so you guys can kind of see. I'll show you what I'm using, and if you're using the same, then most of it's going to work. This is some of the maps that I use. I'm a Patreon, and as long as you're a Patreon user, you can use their maps. They actually have some really nice looking maps. I've covered that in another one. So, but don't pay attention to those yellows. Those literally are dancing lights. Doesn't work anymore, but that was kind of integrated into Foundry itself, so you don't need it. I just need to actually uninstall this one. More dice does not work. You are 100% correct, because Dice So Nice still works, but I have the same thing, or did I take it out already? I guess I took it out already. You're right. The Dice So Nice, or Nice More Dice. Nice More Dice does not work. But the dice tray, which is this over here, dice tray does still work, which I'm glad of. I do use that one a lot. Drag ruler, that's, what else is yellow that would be important? The Ace Library still works as far as I know. Ace Library is just a, kind of like a DLL, a driver type thing. It doesn't do that much itself, but it works with the animations. And the animations work. But yeah, Token HUD Classic, that made me shed a little tear because that was one of my favorite modules. And it doesn't, and as far as I can tell, they're not updating it to 11. They're kind of done with 10, so I need to find something else. But everything else seems to work. But as far as animations, do I have to be in a combat? Yep, still works. And like I said, you just saw him do the strike, and you can, so the animations still work, the spells still work. Let's have him cast a spell. What's a good spell that does? Oh, it didn't do the animation for that one. Yeah, the more dice, they update. Oh, they are updating. Oh, you're talking for this one. Yes, they did do an update on it. Yeah, as soon as I installed Foundry 11, that little, when you first do it up, they have the P2E thing that shows up in your chat. I think I already deleted it. I did already delete it. But yeah, and that did come up, and it even explained some of the animations that they did. Updated the keywords. More animations. Are you talking about you need more animations, or you... The reason why I'm asking that is if you go to your compendium, the sequencer macros, you can add more animations there. These are basically all the animations you have. You can search for more. You can also go on to Forge VTT and actually find more. The ones I actually use, I'll go back to the modules here. Manage modules. You know, you have the JB2A And then you have P2E animation macros, which JB2A is a dependency of. But yeah, they still all work. The big one that doesn't really work is Token Action HUD Classic. So if you were waiting to get to Foundry 11 until someone showed you that stuff works, stuff works. The only thing that, and if you are playing and you're not trying to record videos, I actually like, just like Raven's Path was saying, I actually like PF2E Interactive Token Tooltip better. And that is, once again, that is this. And in case we didn't, you can go, it basically gives you everything. It tells you what type of creature, it tells you, in combat, it gives you levels, it gives you, I have to highlight over everything. Temporary HPs, it gives you the HP, it gives you armor class. So they're different saving throws, it gives you their movement speeds, and it gives you all their actions, it gives you all their spells, all their skills, and any of the extras, like if you were to open up a player's screen and you had stuff here, well, that would be the stuff, I believe. No, it isn't. These are just actual extras. Okay, so these are actually extra things that you can add onto here. It's actually probably better than Token Action HUD Classic. It just sucks for making videos. So that is, especially if you, and I'll kind of scroll through this one more time. I'm not going to read them all off. Oh, have you guys been sleeping on Break Time? Break Time is great. I fully recommend this one, and I've got every single, I use it, and I've gotten all the other GMs who I play with to use it. Yes, it does. I think that's fantastic. But what break time does is if you have all your players here and you click break time, you can say, okay, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute bio break, whatever. And when you bring it up, everybody's going to be listed. And when the person comes back, you'll go ahead and hit I'm back, and it'll put a little checkbox there, and they go from red to green. And that way you know if everybody's seated back down at the table ready to go. If they're still red with an X here, that means that they haven't come back to the table yet. So this is just a good way to know whether people have left the table or not. I love break time. It's a fantastic module. That's one that I don't see get used a lot, especially when I see any actual plays or watching some of the other lives. That's a really good one. What is another good one that I particularly like? Carousel Combat Tracker. I'm sure you guys have seen that before. Basic Action Macros. I do like that one a lot. This one is actually available if you were to go into your compendium pack, and you can just type in macro. And if you scroll down, you're going to get the Basic Action Macros. And you don't have to install this, I don't believe. But I always have my players drop it in their macro bar because it includes everything that they can do. And if they're blue, they're trained. If they're really good, I mean, it kind of gives you so this is IRL. Let me not lie and make sure I'm remembering this correctly. Thing is, sometimes you'll say stupid stuff when you're sitting in front of a camera. So let me go to their skills. I believe that it is blue is trained, and this is what they're expert, master, that kind of stuff on. So let's take a look. Proficiencies. So seek perception. Perception is expert, purple. Jump, which would be acrobat trained. Escape, that could be acrobatics though too, not just athletics. So escape, they're doing it as gray because they're untrained they're trained in athletics. I don't know what the color coding means. It means the best in your party? I don't. Good thing I stopped and and jumped back for a second. Yeah, I don't think I'm not entirely sure what the color codes mean. I did think it was levels of training, but apparently I am wrong. Well, I don't know, because medicine is master, and master, that's the same color. I do think it has something to do with a level of training. But like I said, this isn't a module. This is just built into the system. You just have to know where it is, and no one tells you. So if you want to find that one, this is literally type in macro. And a bear Foundry with Pathfinder. and scroll down to the bottom of what shows up, and you're going to get basic action macros. That's another really good one. Then the other one, and I did a video on this one, and I love this one because I think it talks about stuff that people never use, and they should, because it's so easy to get that +1 or +2 or better AC. Exploration activities. PF2E exploration effects, and there's PF2E exploration activities. Download both modules. And what they will do, exploration effects, exploration activities. Once you get the effects, is if you have players, you can go ahead and you're just in exploration mode. We're going to have, if we're in exploration mode, forget the fact that there's a dragon here. We'll delete the dragon. You're going to have Ira in defend. So when you click on defend, it doesn't do anything. But if you remember, if you're defending in exploration mode, that first round, you're going to get a circumstance bonus to your AC. If you want to have your magic user, who right now is here in a totally different level, but that doesn't matter, casting detect magic the whole time, then they're casting detect magic. If you want to have your rogue either scouting or searching, or you want to have a ranger tracking, you can go ahead and drag these things onto the player. And that way the GM knows what the players are doing when they're in exploration mode. And that way you don't come across that thing of someone saying, oh, well, I had my shield up before you walked in the room. Well, if you're using this, then you can tell then you can say, look, you can say I have the token that says I was defending when I walked in the room. It's just a way to, and it also reminds players to use the proper exploration activities, because you get a bonus for these things. There's no reason to not use them. And just like any other effect, once you get to it, you can just right click and it goes away. That is another awesome one that works in Foundry 11. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. These are all have to do with Harrow readings, encounters, quick reference DCs. This is just from me. This is as a GM, this is your GM macros that I use, so I can do DC adjustments on the fly. Plug another one. So this is actually written by someone, one of the people, one of my subscribers, someone who follows on the channel, and it's basically, bring it up in this, because I don't remember the name off the top of my head, Dice Stats. Dice Stats will, I don't think I have a good way to show you guys. It basically allows you to compare all your different players and the averages, basic action macros. I sure can. So I go to, I didn't install this as far as I know. Someone just told me to type this in my Foundry back before I started doing this myself, and I was using somebody else's Foundry. But you just go to your journals or your compendiums and you type in macro. And it's usually at the bottom, but basic action, oh, it's underneath something. Scene transition macro, is it? No, it isn't. For a second, I thought it was under PF2E workbench, but basic action macros. Hopefully that helped. And let me know whether it did. I'm going to go. But Dice Stats will allow you to see basically the averages of your party. Fortunately, and when I don't have a good Foundry open, and I don't want to show people who I don't have their permission to show their stats, but on another one of the games. But if you have multiple players, you have 4 players, you can compare, and someone saying, man, I always roll bad. I never roll criticals. Well, if you are running Dice Stats allows you to compare players, and it also, you can do it as a GM on how you're rolling, and you compare and give yourself averages, you know, what your streaks are, sequential increment rolls, and it's just a whole bunch of stats for rolling. And it's kind of interesting if you wanted to go through a session and you had a player who just seemed to have bad luck. You know what? I can go to this module and I could say, you know what? They really did have bad luck. I'm going to go ahead and give them a hero point for this hour. I actually like this, and this is done by someone who is subscribed to the channel, so I'm going to push this as hard as I can. I enjoy it, and I'm going to keep it on. but that one's called Dice Stats. Something else. Wall Builder. I think that's all I can think of. That basically works in. The only thing like I said, the only thing is Token Action HUD Classic. That's the only problem I had. So if you're waiting for Foundry 11 and you use basically the same modules I do, you should be good to go. Once again, I'll kind of bring this up and scroll through so you guys can kind of see which modules I'm using. Beginner box obviously works. I mean, they don't have it clicked right now. Token Mold, Tokenizer, and Universal Battle Map Importer. Those all work. I'll save module settings. It'll have me reload. But I promise you those ones all work. We'll do this real quick so you can see, especially the Tokenizer. Token Mold is the one that I use. The only thing I use on Token Mold is if you have a bunch of players who are fighting a mob of monsters and you want the monster to be like interesting kobold. Unkempt kobold, the one that names the different kobolds so you can talk. Oh, there's a new patch. Speaking of, I'll do that later. But Tokenizer is the one where this is Tokenizer. Tokenizer is the one that allows you to do avatars and tokens. So Tokenizer does work. What was the other one? Oh, Universal Battle Map Importer. This is, I use Dungeon Draft. That's what this was made with. There's a couple I'm working with, and hold on a sec. File structure. River Crossing, which is that one. So what you're looking at right now is actually created here in Dungeon Draft. Dungeon Draft, you can go ahead and if you want to, well, I have walls there. Well, instead of doing water, we'll do terrain brush. We'll do snow. You can basically create things, create maps, basically. So the whole reason why I even bring that up for Dungeon Draft is that's what Universal Battle Map Importer is for. When I go ahead and create a new scene, this right here, it allows me to bring in Dungeon Draft saves in DD2 VTT files. So that's what allows me to bring those Dungeon Draft files in. And the reason why actually that's pretty important, I already closed it out, is if you were to do, you can build walls in Dungeon Draft. So if you go and you do, not prefabs text walls, where is it again? Wall tool. Actually, let's do path tool, but then you can go ahead and this allows you to create your walls and then it'll translate over. Wall tool. Edit your points on the wall. But anyways, that's something totally different. That's Dungeon Draft. Maybe one of these days I'll do the other one because there is another one I'm playing with. And that would be, let's see if I can bring this up once again without sharing every single bit of my personal information. Through Steam. That I'm playing around with right now is it's what created this. It's called Dungeon Alchemist. Activate it. Close this out. Close this out. It creates, it's a different map maker. Let's see if I can't bring it up. I'm going to wind up wasting too much time. I just don't like me clicking and having you guys stare at me without presenting you anything. Steam. Where is it? Dungeon Alchemist. Here we go. Yes, sure. Oh, it's opening another screen. I'll show that another time. Simply because it is going full screen. Redeem code, new map, settings. It's showing full screen in my bottom screen, not the one I'm displaying. So that isn't going to be something I can do right now. But there is a way to run it windowed. I'm just not right now. And once again, I feel like I'm wasting everybody's time. So let's not do that. Aside from that, I can't think of too much else to really go over with right now. Raven's Path, did that help you find basic action macros out of curiosity? If not, let me do a real quick search here. Okay. It looks like I got something on Reddit here. Basic action macros would be really helpful. It isn't. Let me double check. Basic action macros. Make sure that you have an actor selected. There's one thing I can think of because it's not letting me do anything. If I don't have somebody selected. If not, I'll have to do some more search. That might be a question for I answer in the description or in comments below. Because otherwise I'm just going to want it. Basic action macros might be part of PF2E Workbench. Hold on a sec. Bringing this up here. Okay, so basic action macro, I was wrong. It is part of something else, and I actually should have noticed that earlier. It is part of, so I apologize for giving you wrong information. If you go to your compendium, you need to have macros, which you type in. This is part of PF, it's right here. I'm just looking at it. It is part of PF2E Workbench. So you need to have PF2E Workbench installed in order to get basic action macros. Hopefully that fixes it. Because to me, this is the same as it was for me in Foundry 10. As it is in Foundry 11, and it still seems to work. But yeah, so just make sure you have PF2E Workbench. I feel dumb now because it's everywhere. It's literally here. It's written here. When I went into the code, it's written here. So yeah, it's kind of everywhere. I should have known that. Sure, absolutely no problem, Raven's Path. Now, aside from that, I don't have much more else to go on. So let's see what else I can bring up news for the week. So right now we are going to be doing, so the next few videos, tomorrow I'm doing a review of this. It's not really a review. You obviously know I like it. You can tell by now. The only problem I have with it is the price. It is a bit expensive. It's $40. Is it worth it? It was to me. But in truth, if I had to do it again and I wasn't on I don't want to say if I wasn't on a subscription. On a subscription, you kind of get what to get, and you might not know when you're going to get charged things. But I could do without this. The Foundry module is what I use. I play most of my games in Foundry. I take it back. Up to this point, except for one Pathfinder Society game, I play everything on Foundry. And once, the next season of Pathfinder site is, I'm going to try to start running that at my local game store. So if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have gotten this, and I would have just done the Foundry module, because the Foundry module is solid. It just looks so cool. And I'm really looking forward to playing with it again live on Saturday when we're going to do an actual reading. So that should be fun. So we're doing a review of this tomorrow, Saturday, another live. Then I do believe I have to figure out what I'm going to do for the live next week. But I'm saying that like I have to figure it out. Here's the why we're figuring stuff out is because I'm kind of waiting on remaster for new stuff. I have a whole list of things in my phone. Basically, I'll be walking along or doing something. I'll think of an idea for videos because I think about Pathfinder a lot for some reason. And I have a whole list, but there's a bunch I can't do because I know they're making changes in the remaster. So don't forget, on the 31st and the 1st, they are going to be... Oh, absolutely no problem. Jonaheb. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But I'm waiting on the playtest for 2 new classes that are going to be done on October 1st or the 31st. Let's go ahead and go to that real quick. The Paizo blog. Once again, don't sleep on the Paizo blog. There's a bunch of cool stuff in there. I can't wait till they update this website so the website's faster. Pathfinder's preview, 2nd edition playtest. Starfinder. Come on, finish loading. Thank you. Pathfinder Infinite, organized play previews. Where is that blog entry? Anyways, on the, if you go to this, the best way to do it, the best way to remember to do this is you can literally go to Pathfinder, playtest, and it'll take you to the Pathfinder playtest website, just like their Starfinder playtest takes you to the Starfinder playtest. Right now they don't have anything. However, they're going to be releasing 2 new classes coming up at the end of the month, and I'm so looking forward to that new information. And then I'm looking forward to November when we get the remaster, because then I can start doing a lot of the ideas I have. There's so many subsystems I want to do, and there's so many variant rules I want to do, but I know they're changing them because they mentioned they're changing the victory point system, which is the basis for a lot of the subsystems. So I kind of have to wait to do some of the videos that I want to do. So right now I'm doing a lot of stuff out of Rage of Elements, and I'm going to start doing Book of the Dead. Actually, that's one of the ones I want to start for Sunday. And then I still have a few more Kineticist things to kick off with. Basically going to do the class feats and then the feats for each one of the different elements. But that's kind of what we're going to be doing for the next week and a half or so until the new playtest comes out. Now, if there's anything else anybody wanted to ask, and I'll kind of vamp here for a few minutes, but what else could I possibly talk about? We have the Pathfinder playtest coming. There should be more things coming out. If you go back to the blog here, we did see the results of the first field test. That is in the blog for Starfinder. Like I said, they are going to be updating this website, and I really can't wait. This is the only bad thing I hate about is they had the Starfinder 2nd edition playtest. You can go to this link. Absolutely, Raven's Path, no problem. I enjoyed this. When I first did this, I didn't think I would like it at all. I was super nervous about doing it, but it's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, except for waiting on websites. Come on. I actually have pretty good internet too, so it isn't necessarily me. This is what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on the Paizo. There we go, finally. So this is what we're talking about. We go to the Paizo blog, and you can, they've already done their first play test. So I'm hoping that they come out with another field test. What I was talking about before is if you go to Pathfinder playtest, It'll take you to the Paizo page for the playtest, which should be starting on, they're going to be doing the Twitch thing, I believe, on the 31st or the 1st, and then they're going to be releasing that same day. And then there's also Starfinder playtest. And if you go to that URL, come on, Paizo website. I swear to you guys, I actually do have pretty good internet. Anyways, they finished their first run with the field test documents they released during Gen Con. Let me refresh, see if that'll help. There we go. And you can download this field test. We kind of went over this field test during one of the lives, but hopefully they're going to be coming out with field test 2 pretty soon, which will be more information, and we can start playing around with that. Because what I would love to do is I would love to take, and they said it was kind of broken, so it'd be a little bit hard to do, is I'd love to take this soldier class or take one of their classes from the field test and bring it into a Foundry set, or I'm sorry, a Pathfinder setting and see how it works. So that's something I'm kind of looking forward to. But I guess with all that being said, I don't really see any more questions. We've been doing this for a good almost hour and 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. But I really do. I appreciate you guys coming. I will go ahead and I'll look through this again and make sure there weren't any questions I missed. If there was, I will answer the questions in the code. Fantastic. I'm glad you got it to work. The basic action macro. It really is super, super handy. Let me switch over to this. But I am very happy you got basic action macros figured out. It's just so handy. And you can get everything right there. Anything you could possibly do. Well, not anything, but a lot of things you could possibly do that you don't think of, like aid or step, or when you're trying to find those things that are just a little bit off. It's just so helpful. But there'll be more videos this week, streaming again on Saturday. And we're looking forward to the playtest that we get from Pathfinder and the 2 new classes. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start logging off. But I do appreciate you guys coming, and I hope you have a good day and happy adventuring. Thanks, everybody.